As we have seen, looting and the illegal trade in antiquities is an international problem. Therefore, a number of international organizations, legal conventions, cooperation agreements, and the like have come into existence to better grapple with this challenge. In this presentation, we will introduce a sample of these. In the last century, a great deal of looting and destruction of European cultural heritage took place in the course of 2 world wars. Asia, Africa, and the Middle East lost many historic treasures to smugglers as well. In the 21st century, war-related looting of archaeological sites has been greatest in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. Looting has already destroyed some of the greatest treasures of Afghanistan, such as the Hellenistic city of Ai Khanoum, discussed in Philippe Marquis' presentation in Session 3. Analyses by the Oriental Institute Center for Ancient Middle Eastern Landscapes have shown that 37% of the 2,200-year-old city on the Amu Darya, or Oxus River, has been looted, with an astonishing 17,000 pits dug by looters seeking antiquities there. These numbers are from 2015. While the challenges are many and the issue is very complicated, legal frameworks do offer some help to combat the trade, and efforts to enforce those laws take place both nationally and internationally. Legal and police efforts to stop archaeological looting must take place in 3 linked but different domains. First, the countries where the artifacts are looted from, the source states. Second, the pathways through which the antiquities are smuggled out of their countries of origin and transported by middlemen through transit countries, transnational trade. And third, the antiquities market in the countries where dealers, collectors, and sadly, sometimes museums purchase the antiquities, the consumer states. For example, at the level of source states, Afghanistan fights the illicit trade within its own borders through its 2005 Law on the Protection of Historical and Cultural Properties. Learn more about this law in Noor Aga Nouri's presentation in Session 2. And there is a special police unit linked to the Ministry of Information and Culture that is charged with protecting sites and preventing looting. At the level of transnational smuggling, in addition to international law enforcement organizations, the International Council of Museums and UNESCO are 2 leading multilateral organizations that attempt to monitor and fight the illicit antiquities trade at the global level. Finally, to deal with the consumption end of the illicit antiquities trade, individual countries in the international community have laws to prevent the trafficking and importing of illicit antiquities. These national laws are in most cases inadequate to stem the trade, just as laws against drugs aren't sufficient to stop the illegal narcotics trade. The International Council of Museums has played a very direct role in fighting the illicit trade in many ways, but one of the most important and useful is by having a red list of the most common types of looted antiquities from each country. This allows customs officials and police to identify these items when they find them. The red list for Afghanistan is published in Dari and Pashto and will be included as a resource as part of this online course. The 2 most important international legal frameworks for the prevention of looting and trafficking are the 1954 Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the Event of Armed Conflict and the 1970 UNESCO Convention on the Means of Prohibiting and Preventing the Illicit Import, Export, and Transfer of Ownership of Cultural Property. The Hague Convention protects cultural property during wartime. It prohibits the destruction or seizure of cultural property during armed conflict, whether international or civil, and the trafficking of any cultural property, such as antiquities seized during an armed conflict. The UNESCO Convention forms the basis on which each of the countries that has signed the convention can make its own national laws to enforce it. The idea is that all countries who sign the convention thereby agree to respect these laws and the underlying principles of heritage protection. Afghanistan has signed many international conventions aimed at protecting cultural heritage. These include the 1949 Geneva Conventions. It was originally signed in 1956 and then signed again in 2009. Second, the 1954 Hague Convention, which was signed by Afghanistan on October 26, 2017. And third, the 1970 UNESCO Convention, signed on March 20, 1979. However, like many other countries, Afghanistan has not signed the 1955 UNIDROITS Convention, although the government ratified it in 2005. UNESCO was founded in 1945. UNESCO's activities have broadened over the years. It assists in the translation and dissemination of world literature, helps establish and secure World Heritage Sites of cultural and natural importance, works to bridge the worldwide digital divide, and creates inclusive knowledge societies through information and communication. UNESCO is governed by the General Conference, composed of UN member states and associate members, which meets biannually to set the agency's programs and its budget. The organization's work on heritage led to the adoption in 1972 of the Convention concerning the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage. The World Heritage Committee was established in 1976 and the first sites inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1978. Since then, important legal instruments on cultural heritage and diversity have been adopted by UNESCO member states in 2003, the Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage, and 2005, the Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions. The Blue Shield is a non-governmental, non-profit international organization that was founded especially to protect cultural heritage in emergency situations. Its name derives from one of its methods, which is to attach a blue shield symbol to identify cultural sites and alert soldiers that these are protected by the 1954 Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in Armed Conflict, and that these should not be damaged. The Blue Shield Network works closely with its international partners, such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, UNESCO, and many others. Karl Habsburg, founding president of Blue Shield, emphasizes the protection of cultural property and heritage is indivisibly interwoven with the protection of people. Blue Shield provides relevant training to heritage professionals, to the armed forces, to other emergency responders, and to those involved in preventing the illicit trafficking of looted objects. It promotes community engagement with and participation in protecting cultural property. It encourages cooperation with and between other relevant entities involved in emergency situations. The International Council of Museums is a non-governmental organization dedicated to museums, maintaining formal relations with UNESCO. Founded in 1946, ICOM also partners with entities such as the World Intellectual Property Organization, Interpol, and the World Customs Organization in order to carry out its international public service missions, which include fighting illicit traffic in cultural goods and promoting risk management and emergency preparedness to protect world cultural heritage in the event of natural or man-made disasters. Supporting the fight against illicit traffic in cultural goods is among ICOM's highest priorities. The ICOM Red Lists are tools designed to help police and customs officials, heritage professionals, and art and antiquities dealers to identify the types of objects that are most susceptible to illicit trafficking. ICOM has already published red lists for many different countries and regions, including Afghanistan, Peru, Egypt, West Africa, and Southeast Europe, to name only a few. Red lists are not lists of specific stolen objects, but are a tool to raise awareness. They identify the categories of cultural objects that can be subjected to theft and traffic. This helps individuals, organizations, and authorities who are not themselves art historians or archaeologists, such as, for example, police or customs officials, better pinpoint objects at risk and prevent them from being illegally sold or exported. The cultural goods depicted on the lists are inventoried objects within the collections of recognized institutions. They only serve to illustrate the types of cultural goods most vulnerable to illicit traffic in a particular country or location. ICOM publishes the red lists with the scientific collaboration of national and international experts to cover the most vulnerable areas of the world in terms of illicit trafficking of cultural objects. Among other success stories, these tools have contributed to the identification, recovery, and restitution of thousands of cultural objects from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Mali. The International Criminal Police Organization, commonly known as Interpol, is an international organization that facilitates worldwide police cooperation and crime control. It is the world's largest international police organization. It is headquartered in Lyon, France, and has 195 member states. Afghanistan has been a member since 2002. Interpol is itself not a law enforcement agency. Rather, it provides investigative support, expertise, and training to law enforcement worldwide, focusing on three major areas of transnational crime: terrorism, cybercrime, and organized crime. The agency also facilitates cooperation among national law enforcement institutions through criminal databases and communications networks. Pursuant to its charter, Interpol seeks to remain politically neutral in fulfilling its mandate, and is thus barred from interventions or activities that are political, military, religious, or racial in nature. While national agencies have their own extensive crime databases, the information rarely extends beyond one nation's borders. Interpol's databases can track criminals and crime trends around the world, specifically by means of authorized collections of fingerprints and face photos, lists of wanted persons, DNA samples, and travel documents. An encrypted, internet-based, worldwide communications network allows Interpol agents and member countries to contact each other at any time. Known as a 24/7, the network offers constant access to Interpol's databases. Member countries can also access each other's criminal databases via the I-24/7 system. The Himaya project, based in Qatar, has been working with Interpol to successfully identify artifacts trafficked to London, Paris, and Amsterdam. Historians in Qatar have intervened to stop the international sale of nearly a dozen stolen manuscripts and Qurans from Afghanistan. The historians are part of the Himaya project, a joint effort between Qatar National Library and the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, working to stop illegal trafficking of manuscripts in the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia. In 2020, Qatar National Library and their international team of experts discovered that important Quranic manuscripts from Kabul were for sale in Paris, London, Amsterdam, and Iran. One rare and beautiful Quran was on sale at Sotheby's, London. The Quran was identified by Francis Richard, a preeminent scholar of Persian manuscripts who alerted Mr. Stéphane Hyper at the Qatar National Library and their Director of Special Collections to the Sotheby's sale item after having seen and catalogued it in 2016 at the National Archive of Afghanistan in Kabul. Sotheby's immediately removed the manuscript from its auction after being alerted by a member of Himayah. But Mr. Hyper says that other pieces from the collection have been reappearing at auction houses around the world. The team found one at a Dutch auction house in May 2022, but it was sold before they could stop it, as was another one advertised on a social media site in Iran. They found 8 other stolen manuscripts in the past year. These included one discovered via an online post from people associated with the former Afghan government, advertising an ancient Quran for sale for more than $1 million. In June and July of 2022, Taliban officials, including the Deputy Minister of Culture, Maulawi Atiqullah Azizi, met with Qatar National Library to discuss ways of protecting manuscripts. Stéphane Hyper says there is a desperate need for cataloging and digitizing inventory at Kabul's National Archive and other important institutions in Afghanistan. Qatar National Library is currently trying to return the stolen and smuggled manuscript to Kabul. It is not easy because the theft was never declared by the National Archive, and the actual number of stolen manuscripts is unknown. On February 20, 2021, the Taliban leadership issued its first official statement on cultural heritage protection. That read,
"The Islamic Emirate instructs all officials, commissions, department chiefs, provincial and district governors, military units and group commanders, the Mujahideen, and all compatriots to take into consideration the following vis-a-vis ancient artifacts found around the country. 1. As Afghanistan is a country replete with ancient artifacts and antiquity, and that such relics form a part of our country's history, identity, and rich culture, therefore all have an obligation to robustly protect, monitor, and preserve these artifacts. 2. No one is allowed to excavate, transport, and sell historic artifacts anywhere, nor to move it outside the country under some other name. 3. All Mujahideen must prevent excavation of antiquities and preserve all historic sites like old fortresses, minarets, towers, and other similar sites to safeguard them from damage, destruction, and decay. 4. As the Commission for Cultural Affairs is tasked with the duty of guarding and preserving ancient artifacts, all departments of the Emirate, especially the Military Commission, governors, and other Mujahideen must coordinate and cooperate with the Cultural Commission in protecting these artifacts. 5. All types of trade, contracts, and transport and transfer of ancient goods are henceforth forbidden. No one should try to disturb such sites or think about using them for profit.
Hello, welcome to this short session on remote sensing and monitoring endangered archaeological and cultural heritage sites in the Middle East and North Africa. My name is Dr. Bijan Rohani. I am a senior researcher of the EAMINA project at the University of Oxford. Today I will talk about the EAMINA project. I will introduce remote sensing techniques. I will talk about how remote sensing can help monitor endangered archaeological and heritage sites, and then I will have a short introduction to a free and online course on using remote sensing to protect cultural heritage, which is also translated into Persian. IEMENA, or Endangered Archaeology in the Middle East and North Africa project, was funded in 2015 by Arcadia Fund in response to conflicts and other threats in the Middle East and North Africa region. The project is based in the University of Oxford in partnership with the Universities of Leicester and Durham in England. The project covers over 20 countries in this region. The main objectives of the IEMENA project are documenting archaeological sites, mainly using remote sensing but also on-the-ground methodologies, assessing threats and disturbances to these sites, conducting archaeological research, creating networks and sharing knowledge through training and collaboration with local partners, and developing national heritage databases based on ARTU's system for different countries. We use different methods to record disturbances and threats to cultural heritage sites. These disturbances include agricultural activities, armed conflict, building and construction, looting and illicit trafficking of cultural properties, natural erosion, and natural hazards. Our main source of information is from remote sensing, including satellite imagery and recent and historical aerial photographs. On the left-hand side image in this slide, you can see war damage to the World Heritage Site of Aleppo in Syria. On the right-hand side, you can see damage because of construction and agricultural activities to a caravanserai in Jordan. Remote sensing helps us to combat illicit activities and looting. It helps us in different ways. First, it helps heritage professionals to develop preparedness and preventive measures by identifying archaeological sites and recording them. By having a digital inventory of significant archaeological sites that can be at risk of looting, heritage authorities can prioritize preventive and protective measures for those sites. Secondly, remote sensing can help heritage professionals and researchers to monitor sites that are already targets of looters. This way, you can record sites that have been looted, assess the extent of damage, and inform competent authorities to stop the illegal activities. We talk about this later in this course. In the image, you can see the Bronze Age cemetery of Bab al-Dara in Jordan, which has been heavily looted. We also use other sources of information, including published reports. Where we can, we also collect data from fieldwork and field assessment to enhance records in our database. We use specific condition assessment forms, or in some cases, we use mobile applications, including AMAL in Heritage app developed by GHF, Global Heritage Fund, for data collection and condition assessment on the ground. Following the devastating explosion in Beirut in August 2020, IEMENA and employees of the Directorate General of Antiquities of Lebanon, who we had trained, documented about 197 buildings damaged in the explosion using the AMAL mobile application and uploaded them into the IEMENA Lebanon database. What is remote sensing? To explain simply, remote sensing is a term used to describe methods of obtaining data from a distance. Satellite remote sensing uses information gathered by sensors on satellites orbiting the Earth to make observations about the Earth's surface. Image interpretation has been used by archaeologists since the early days of aerial photography. From the 1970s, satellite imagery was used to identify large or distinctive sites. These days, many archaeologists use freely available satellite imagery that can be accessed through platforms such as Google Earth Pro or Bing Maps. You can easily use Google Earth or download Google Earth Pro application on your computer and use it freely. We use satellite imagery for different purposes. First of all, to identify and record archaeological sites. In these examples, you can see two archaeological sites covered by sand in Gerdi area of Sistan in Iran, very close to the border with Afghanistan. In addition to archaeological sites, we can see and document historic villages and settlements or heritage structures like caravansarais and other types of cultural heritage. On Google Earth Pro, once you identify a heritage place, you can drop a pin, give a name to it, and record it. It is possible to change the symbol and color. You can also draw a polygon around your site. You can create a folder and record your sites in those folders. We also use satellite imagery to monitor changes to archaeological sites and landscapes. The time slider is one of the most useful tools in Google Earth Pro because it shows us a variety of satellite images taken at different times. The date an image was taken is called the acquisition date. Comparing images with different acquisition dates allows us to see how sites have been damaged over time and to identify potential threats before they cause damage. Click on the historical imagery icon on the toolbar and the time slider will appear. Move the time slider bar to the left to view historic images or older images, and to the right to go to the most recent image. The acquisition date of the image is indicated above the slider. Note that date is in month, day, year formats. In this example from an archaeological site in Syria, you can see the changes from 2003 to 2019. This slide is taken in 2003, and this image is taken in 2009, and this image is taken in 2019. Comparing these images, you can see new buildings and road construction in 2019 on the east part of the site. We can use satellite imagery to monitor sites that are at risk of looting. Having this information is essential in several ways. First, can help us to protect these sites where possible, and secondly, by knowing which areas are at risk of looting, we can obtain information about potential looted objects and share it with law enforcement agencies at the national and international levels. In this slide, you see the archaeological site of Apamea in Syria. This first image is taken in 2011 when the site was not looted yet. This second image is taken in 2013, just 2 years later, and you can see how the site has been looted. And this is the image of the whole site. And this is another example from Syria, from a site called Dura Europus. This image was taken in 2011 when the site was not still looted. In the second image from 2014, you can see how badly the site is looted. All dots on the image are looting holes in the site. Here on an image from 2015, you can see more details of the looted areas in Dura Europus. This is another example from an archaeological site in Syria. This image was taken in 2004, and you can only see some excavations and archaeological activities on the site. The site was not looted in that time. But in the second image taken in 2019, you can see the same site with some looted areas on the north and eastern part of the site. This example is from a site called Umma in Iraq. This image is taken in 2003. But on this image from the same site, you can see massive scale looting on Ummah, and it is easy to detect on satellite imagery. All dots around the site represent looted areas. In addition to looting, satellite imagery can help us to detect other types of threats to archaeological sites, including development and construction projects. In this example, you see ancient sites in Saymara area in western Iran in 2008 before a big dam construction projects. Sites are visible on both banks of the river. This is the same area in 2011. The ancient sites are submerged because of the dam construction. You can also monitor changes to historic landscapes and archaeological areas due to other factors, including agricultural expansion and road construction. This is an image from an ancient landscape in Lebanon in 2008 when the site was almost intact. In the second image, taken in 2021, agricultural activities and the new roads that have changed the landscape are visible. Remote sensing can also help to assess the impact of development projects such as road construction and mining on archaeological sites before these development projects start. In 2015, EAMINA project conducted a desk-based review to assess the impact of a ring road development project around Madaba in Jordan. Overall, a total of 141 potential archaeological or historical sites were identified and analyzed. Data from remote sensing are recorded in the EAMINA database. EAMINA database is a geospatial database using ArcGIS software. ArcGIS is an open-source software platform freely available for cultural heritage organizations to help them manage cultural heritage data. It was developed in 2013 by Getty Conservation Institute and the World Monuments Fund. Currently, there are over 346,000 records in the EAMINA database from different countries. Digital record creation of archaeological sites into the EAMINA database improves the inventory and future management and preservation of sites. EAMINA has also developed an online and freely available course on using remote sensing to protect cultural heritage. This course is available in 4 languages, including Persian, English, Arabic, and French. The course will help users to better understand remote sensing in archaeology and will teach them the basic techniques for site identification and assessing damage and threats to archaeological sites. To access this course, please visit the EAMINA website at eamina.org. Then go to Resources, and then under Resources, click on MOOC Massive Open Online Course. Then on the new page, scroll down to find a link to the Persian translation of the course or other languages. I hope this short introduction has been helpful for you. If you have any questions about the EAMINA project or remote sensing and archaeology, please email us. Thank you.
Who is Andrew Lawler? Quick introduction. I am an archaeology, history, and science writer based in the United States. I am a contributing editor for Archaeology magazine, a contributing writer for Science magazine, and a freelance writer for National Geographic magazine. I am also a book author and have covered Afghanistan's cultural heritage since 2001 with several reporting trips. I have also covered cultural heritage issues in Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan, India, China, and Pakistan. Afghanistan's unique heritage. Afghanistan is a crossroads of empires and civilizations that has left it a unique record of human history from the Neolithic period to the Islamic era. The country's climate, respect for tradition, and limited modern development has preserved much of the important ancient past. This record provides a window into the ways cultures, peoples, and languages interacted over millennia. Political and military upheavals since 1979 threaten historic and archaeological sites through looting, war damage, and illegal development. What is the media? Newspapers and magazines, radio, television, social media. Some media are privately owned, some owned by governments. Media gather information through on-the-ground reporting, remote reporting, government information, intergovernmental information, and non-governmental groups. The media's job is to inform, educate, and challenge. How media impacts Afghan cultural heritage. Media can alert individuals, groups, and government about disasters, like the Ghazni Tower collapse. Media can expose when government plans for economic growth can hurt cultural heritage, such as the copper mining at Misainak. Media can gather information on looters and looting networks, both inside and outside Afghanistan, to expose theft. Media can warn about potential threats, such as the destabilization of the minaret of Jam. Media can reveal new discoveries made by archaeologists. The Leaning Tower of Jam. The minaret of Jam was built in the 12th century. It is an important remnant of the Ghurid Empire. It lies in a remote valley in central Afghanistan and is the second tallest minaret in the world, at 65 meters. Its tower was in danger of collapse due to erosion. Thanks to local and international media coverage in 2001-2002, UNESCO placed the minaret on the UNESCO list of World Heritage in Danger. European teams then provided funding and engineering help to stabilize the monument. The power of local media. The villager versus the warlord. Villager Mohammed Mukhtar Ahmadi in central Afghanistan saves ancient Buddhist inscription from looters in the 1990s. After 2001, Abdul Karim Khalili, warlord and then vice president of Afghanistan, pressures Ahmadi to give up inscription for his personal antiquities collection. Ahmadi finally relents, but insists on a receipt, then contacts local media in Kabul. Local media contacts Khalili, who denies theft. Local media prints receipt, exposes Khalili's theft. Khalili deposits the inscription in the National Museum in Kabul. The story spreads to international media. Misainak and the international media. There are $1 trillion in minerals within Afghanistan's borders. Misainak is the centerpiece of that push. It could contain more than 5.5 million tons of copper and provide hundreds of millions of dollars annually, along with more than 4,000 jobs. In 2008, the Afghan government leased the mining rights to the Metallurgical Corporation of China, MCC, for 30 years in a deal worth $3.5 billion. Development of 4,000 hectares threatens one of Central Asia's most important Buddhist complexes. International media stories, Science Magazine, Archaeology Magazine, National Geographic, pressure Afghan government to protect portion of site and allow further archaeological investigation. hundreds of Buddhist statues rescued, and extensive excavations provide important information as a result. Media and education. News articles and broadcasts can teach readers and listeners about Afghanistan's important and unique heritage, bring attention to exhibits and museums within Afghanistan, focus attention on exhibits outside Afghanistan to educate foreigners to Afghanistan's heritage, encourage international interest, concern, and funding for Afghanistan-related cultural heritage projects. Media as a critical part of Afghanistan's cultural heritage. Media can serve as an early warning signal, an educational tool, a way to alert the public to new discoveries and new threats, a way to connect Afghanistan to the wider world. Using the media. Who are the reporters and publications and news outlets that cover cultural heritage, both local and international? Contact reporters before you have a story to tell in order to establish trust and credentials. Provide reporters with contacts, images, and accurate information. If a reporter gets a story wrong, tell them immediately. Ask for a correction. Remember, the media's job is not to advocate, but to inform, and you can't control the result. By having completed this course, you are now on your way to becoming a defender of your country's heritage. Thank you for your participation.